This is the new Chevy Silverado EV Trail Boss. So it's an electric Trail Boss, brand new for 2026. And in this video, I'm going to compare it to the Ford Lightning that we took up this very same trail. But before I do that, let's talk about this new truck and let's get into why this is the best off-road Silverado. Of course, this is a Trail Boss, which means that it has certain features that I'll go into that make it off-road worthy. And you can tell it's a Trail Boss because it says Trail Boss. And let's start with the most important feature, and that is these Wrangler Goodyears all-terrains. Now what makes them unusual is that they're 35s, and that's a big tire. And 35s, well, they're better than 33s for going off-road, and that's why this truck is much better at off-roading than the Ford Lightning. So let me cut to the video when we tried to take the Ford Lightning up this very same trail. But, well, watch the video, you'll see what happened.
Yeah, so we were kind of cruising up this trail, and originally we were going to start this video higher up, but we've kind of run into some ground clearance issues we want to show you in the F-150 Lightning.
Yeah. Keep going. Oh, yeah.
So I think if I zoom on in there, you can see we are tapped out there on ground clearance over this little berm. And one of the issues, of course, are the side steps on this vehicle, but I'm not quite sure. I think we got a little bit of clearance to the side step. We might actually be hitting underneath the vehicle, and we're not quite clear of this obstacle. Ooh, your stick is making this hard here, Dad. Anyways, we are, I think, on the underbelly is what it feels like to me.
Yeah, and the problem with being on the underbelly is that that's where the batteries are.
Well, now I could probably force my way
yeah,
through this, but if I got this thing high-centered, we're out here by ourselves, and you can see, if you look at this angle, we're not quite clear of the berm, so we're not even fully clear of this little dip. So, obviously, extremely long wheelbase, crew cab truck, short bed, but in its relatively stock configuration, apart from the tires, which we'll talk about in a second, it doesn't have the clearance to go over this little berm. So I think we're going to back it up and head down the trail that way and see what else we can find.
So, we've already gotten much further up the trail in the Trail Boss than we have in the Ford Lightning. And by the way, if you're wondering where I'm doing this, I'm here just outside of Keystone, Colorado, on a trail called Deer Creek. And you too can come up here. It's a wonderful trail. And you can do that by checking out our friends at Onyx Off-Road. It's a great app. It tells you all about how hard the trail is. You can use it when you're not in cell service like we are not right now. And if you use TFL Off-Road as a discount code, you get 20% off. All right, back to this Trail Boss Silverado EV. Now, of course, if it's going to be an off-road truck, you have to have the ubiquitous recovery points, in red in this case, which are right here. You have to have underbody protection. In this case, we have side steps. We also have what I consider a true game changer, and I think that word is overused a lot, and that would be not air suspension, which I wish it has, because quite frankly, I've already bottomed it out once. Much better than the Lightning, but still, it would be nice to have air suspension like the Hummer EV, but it does have rear wheel steering, which makes it much more nimble, much more controllable on these trails. The other thing that it has is this incredible orange color, and I think just really good looks. It's a very good looking truck, and maybe it's because I'm kind of a sucker for orange. As you know, I'm kind of in love with our GMC AT4X, but I think that Chevy has done a really good job in styling. Of course, it's got the ubiquitous light bar across the front. The Chevy logo lights up, and there's a front there. And by the way, if you want to see a complete review of this, head on over to All TFL, where you can see us towing with it. You can see us showing all the features. This is a purely off-road review, so I won't be talking about that. Now, I should be talking about horsepower and price, and both are substantial. Can't get around the fact this is a $94,000 truck. Now it does start, if you get the work truck version, at about 50,000-ish, a little bit over that. And if you get the extended range battery, the 205 kilowatt hour battery, get this, you get 480 miles of range. This has a little bit under 400 miles of range because it's the off-road version, but still, it hasn't taken us too long to go from, let's say, 150 miles of range to now almost 500 miles of range in the work truck version of this, which is pretty phenomenal. This one, as it sits, $94,000, but 725 horsepower, none of which you really need off-roading, but they are nice to have. 0 to 60 in about 4 seconds, so it's a quick truck. Let's look at the interior. We'll jump in here. Right now, 59% state of charge. We still have 263 miles of range. And if I'm out of breath, I apologize, but I'm at, I think, about 11,000 feet above sea level, so it does get a little well-worn in terms of oxygen use up here. And you can tell this is a relatively hard trail because there's a pretty serious Jeep going up where we're going. All right, let's start it up and hit the, nope, there's no start button. All you need to do is get in the truck and it starts up. Now, one of the things that I don't like is that it does have different drive modes. Let me show you those. But I was in off-road mode when I got in the truck, but I turned it off and it reverted back to normal mode. I wish it would just stay in off-road mode. So let's go back to off-road mode, and that gives you different throttle response, which isn't grand. If I'm being completely honest, I don't like the throttle response, and I'm always honest, of electric vehicles. It's just not, it's too abrupt. There's not enough, there's a mosquito in here now, great. There's just not enough slop. And what I mean by slop is with the torque converter, let me open the window so this little guy goes out. Fly away, mosquito, away with you. Thank you. With the torque converter, in other words, an automatic transmission, there is a little bit of give and take between the throttle and when the vehicle actually goes forward, and that gives you a nice sense of control when you're off-road. With an electric motor, you've got instant torque, and even though they can change the throttle mapping using software, it's never as good as when you're just doing a regular automatic. Let me put my seatbelt on and we will hit the trail. Andre just took the GMC version of this off-road, the AT4. He did not like it, and I have to be honest, the biggest difference between this and the Lightning is the fact that it does have 35s, which gives it more ground clearance, gives it more ability to kind of absorb bumps better, but I'm not a huge fan of off-roading electric vehicles, and the reason for that is simple. It's because they're just heavy. This is probably a 9,000-pound truck. If you really want to go off-road in a GM product, I would recommend the Hummer EV. That one is a little bit better set up for off-roading. You do have more ability to customize the off-road stuff. You also have air suspension, which allows you to raise it up. So one of the great things about this truck, of course, is the cameras, and those are great for off-road. So we've got a 360 right here, and we have a camera that points forward, which is really good. So let's hit the trail and see how this truck does. Now, this being the top of the line Silverado EV, it does have all the bells and whistles. As you can tell, we've got heated and cooled seats. We got a heated steering wheel. We have this giant panoramic sunroof with the sunshade. Why it's one of those clip-on ones that Tesla likes to use, I don't know. Don't like that very much. But in general, this truck is better on-road than off-road. It just doesn't feel quite at home, kind of bouncing across these boulders. And I'm going to say that's, I'll show you the boulders here. I'm going to say that's mainly because it's just a very heavy vehicle. So I said if you wanted to stick to an EV to go off-roading in the GM lineup, go for the Hummer EV. I recently took the new Rivian quad motor off-road. That's even more expensive. That was $112, I believe, $1,000. It's amazing what the technology has enabled the engineers to do, but like this bump right here, I don't know if you can see it, I have to take it so slowly because I worry about hitting the bottom of the truck. And the reason for that is that I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure that there's cladding underneath there to protect the battery, but I'm always very worried about puncturing the battery because it does live underneath the bottom of this truck. And if you puncture a gas tank, then you're going to probably just, run out of gas, unless your exhaust starts on a fire. But if you puncture a battery, oh my gosh, you can get into a runaway kind of combustion situation where the battery just starts on fire, and then I'm going to be the one who started the forest fire here, which is going to, burn down millions of acres, and I'll be the YouTuber who, burned down the Colorado mountains. So that's one of the reasons I guess I'm afraid of taking electric vehicles off-road. And I'm sure the engineers have thought of that and have reinforced the battery box, but still not my favorite thing in the world. The other thing that I don't love about this truck off-roading is the suspension, even though it does have 35s. And usually I would air down when going off-road, but because these videos are kind of off the cuff and it's just myself, I haven't aired down for this little stretch of Deer Creek, and it does give you a good sense of oh, there it goes, I just hit the bottom of the truck, just dragged it across that little slope. It does give you a good sense of how the suspension works, as opposed to having the tires absorb all of the rocks and all of the shakes and shimmies, and because you've got so much weight, like I said, I'm guessing about 9,000 pounds. That's how much the Hummer EV was. Then what you end up with is everything has to be beefed up, and it just feels a little ponderous. It doesn't feel athletic, and it doesn't feel like it's like it's enjoying itself, and that means that I'm not enjoying myself. All right, enough of the criticism. Let's talk about some of the good things about this truck. Oh gosh, that's getting rough. You see what I mean? I mean, that is a lot of head toss. And yes, airing down would help that. But this is a good test of what the suspension is or isn't capable of doing. Now, I do like the cameras. I do like the fact that when you go into off-road mode, but not terrain mode, and now I'm stuck a little bit, but it's figuring it out. And I also don't understand, why do we have, let me show you this, hold on, there's nobody behind me, so I can kind of go here. A little confusing here. We've got both off-road mode and terrain mode, and that kind of changes like the one pedal driving, and I don't understand why GM has both. If it were my truck and I were engineering it, I would just go with one mode for off-roading. I think it just is confusing to most people when you do these two different modes. So I think one is much better. Now I am kind of slowly inching my way up here because I don't really trust this vehicle. Behind me is a side-by-side, so now I'm going to try to move over and let him pass because he can go a lot faster than I can. But I'm going to show you, there's really no place for me to go over here. Maybe I could move over here a little bit and let him come by me. I don't like to hold people up. Let me see if I can move over here. See if he can get by without me rolling off the side of the mountain. There he goes. Oh, you bet. I love how the side-by-sides are now lit up with all kinds of flags and all kinds of different adornments, let's call it that. At first, when I saw that, when I first started off-roading, I was like, I'm not sure all those flags and all those lit-up poles belong off-road, but I kind of like it now. To each his own. Anyway, let's get back to the Silverado Trail Boss. It is getting a little bit rocky here, and the truck is starting to kind of struggle a little bit for grip. Not too much, because of course these all-terrain tires are doing a good job in setting power, but you can really hear the traction control working. You can really feel the truck searching for grip. And I'm gonna do something that I usually don't do in these videos, and that is I'm gonna find a place to turn around. I'm just not having fun. It's not that the truck can't do it. It's just that I don't want to do it. And I think if I had air down, that would be a different story. So part of that, don't let mine wanting to turn around before I get to the top as an indictment of, this truck's capability. It can do it, but sometimes you want a willing dance partner. I kind of feel, well, I'm not kind of feel, I know, I feel like this truck is really struggling at this point. The throttle response is not grand, and this truck doesn't belong to me. So in the Ford Lightning, we turned around much farther down this trail. We didn't even get up this high because we just felt like, this thing is not happy and does not want to be off-road. With this truck, I feel like it can do it, but I don't want to do it. So I'm just going to pull over here and use this little space to turn around and then head back down the mountain. And I'll step out here and I'll kind of give you my conclusion on this video. So, we made it about to 11,000 feet above sea level, which in itself is pretty amazing. And I actually like this truck a lot. I've really enjoyed driving it over the last few days. If you watch your towing video over at TFL Truck or just go to alltfl.com, you'll be amazed at just how quickly it tows. We actually did a tow-off drag race with it. I also think that it is a sharp-looking truck. It's certainly off-road capable, but, and here's the but part, it's just, it can do it, but does it want to do it? I've been watching a show called Travel Man, and they always open the show by saying, we have come, but should we have? And that's kind of how I feel about the Chevy Trail Boss. I have come, but should I have? Now, if you're comparing it to the Lightning, yeah, it's a lot better than the Lightning. A lot more range, at least off-road. It's a lot better, certainly better with range. I think the Lightning is a little bit more comfortable. It's got a little bit better ride, but off-road, this truck has gone up maybe 2 miles past where we gave up on the Lightning. But comparing it to an internal combustion truck like our GMC AT4X, that would just be eating this up. I would have a huge smile on my face and I'd be flying up this hill knowing that the truck wants to dance. This guy, he's like me when I was, in 7th grade going to our fortnightly dances, sitting on the bench in the gym, dreading the fact that maybe some girl would ask me to dance because I wasn't very good at it. I'm still not very good at it. So yes, it can do it, but no, I don't want to do it. And overall, I would love to own this truck, maybe not this $94,000 version of it, but if I were to own it, I'd probably have a different vehicle. We have a GMC, that's a Jeep of course, to go off-roading. Dirt roads, fine, but serious off-road trails, not so much. Head on over to alltfl.com for more news, views, and real-world reviews. And if you want to save 20% on Onyx, click on the link below because it's a great app and we use it all the time. And if you want to come out here to Deer Creek and try it yourself, that's a great way to do it. We'll see you next time. Ciao.